Well, I think a lot of you may know that I did not grow up in a Christian home. Really, the first time I ever went to church, I think it was about 12 years old. It was because I was going to a Cincinnati Reds baseball game, and it was a Sunday afternoon game, and I had to go to church with this guy before we went. And I think the only thing I remember about it was that we ate ice cream in Sunday school, which I'm all for bringing back, by the way. But that's all I remember. I just went, ate ice cream. Then about 4 years later, I started dating Erin, and so basically what she said is she would go out with me on a regular date if I would go with her to church. I'm not advocating any kind of outreach program there or anything, but that's kind of how I started going to church and started meeting her family and other church members and things of that nature. At the time, my dad, my mom was his third marriage. My dad was her second marriage. I was the only child my dad ever had. So it was kind of a rough background. My dad was in horse training, so we were around horses a lot and around gambling a lot and things of that nature. My sister had gotten into a lot of trouble as well, and let's just say my family was from the wrong side of the tracks, just kind of in short. But just through a set of circumstances and God working, ended up going to church, and I don't know how much you want me to go into. I mean, I could. Erin and I kept dating, and I got real committed to church. I was more committed to Erin.
That's what I was going to ask, so that's good.
I mean, and that was the truth. I mean, I went to church because I could be with Erin, and but through that, I started developing relationships with other people there at the church. I ended up with a lot of church moms and church dads, and some of you guys, as you see people come into our building, I know we even have some teens now that their parents aren't necessarily as active, or some of them just come with a friend. That meant a lot to me when somebody from church would come up and say something to me or introduce themselves to me and things of that nature. So we continued to date for a while, and then we were in a really bad car accident. And that was the first time I really started thinking about God, which in my mind makes me think about today and just the stress that's on our country right now. And so I'm thinking people are going to be turning to God right now. Right now, the fields are whitened to harvest because people are going to be turning to Him at this point. But it was in this car accident. Erin and I were on a little country road driving in the middle of Kentucky, kind of a one-laner, one of those where you had to get to the side if somebody came. And we were driving along in the family station wagon. Her parents had stayed home that night with her brother because he was sick, and we were singing oldies in the car. I think we were singing, I want to say Who Put the Bop in the Wop, She Wop, She Wop, or something like that. I mean, I was really in deep, guys, because I didn't listen to oldies, but when I was with her, I'd listen to oldies, I'd go to church. It was even a Sunday night. I mean, I was committed. I was like you know, the faithful on Sunday night. And so doing all this, and she's driving, and the next thing I knew, I was hanging upside down by a seatbelt. She had gotten the car off the shoulder, and when she went to correct, the police think that she hit the gas instead of the brake, that she panicked. And so the car went up an embankment and clipped a tree. In fact, you can still see marks on the tree today. Clipped the tree, and this was 15 years ago. Clipped the tree, car went up on two wheels. I think she hit the gas instead of the brakes. So she kind of just hit it fast, and then the car completely flipped upside down. In fact, I've still got, you can probably see some of the scars, those who are up close. I've still got scars on my elbow from when the car flipped. My elbow went through her window. I was sitting in the center seat. It was a bench seat. Had my arm around her.
We'll come back to that.
Had my arm around her there. Did not in any way hinder her driving ability.
Okay. Edit that, please.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm a man, and I've seen too many action movies. You know, the car's upside down, I'm smelling oil and things like that. It's going to blow up. You know, we've got to get out of here. And so when I came to, I had been knocked out. Erin remembers everything. She remembers the car screeching upside down. We slid for about 50, 60 feet upside down. So I disconnect myself, kind of crashed to the roof. I'm unable to get Erin undone. She's kind of hanging by her seatbelt. I crawl out and reach back in. We're able to get her undone. And we just kind of crawl over the side of the road. And at this point, I look up, and Erin's shirt is covered in blood. And so I'm trying to figure out what's going on. It turns out my elbow had rubbed up against her as we came out of the car. And I said, well, I'm going to go get some help. And so I start to get up, and there was a farmhouse kind of up on this hill. And again, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I went to get up, and I kind of collapsed because I'd broken some toes on one of my feet. About that time, Erin grabs me, and she says, pray with me. And so she just started praying. We're sitting on our knees there in the middle of this little road, and she starts praying and praying. I don't remember what she prayed. My eyes were open. I'm looking around. I'm thinking, I'm going to go get some real help when she's done. And I mean, honestly, that's probably what was going through my mind at the time. And she finished praying, and 3 cars came. I mean, it was almost like a set of lights this way, a set of lights this way, a set of lights. And the odds of that are astounding if you knew this road where we were at. The first guy was an off-duty medical doctor. Okay, so he immediately started tending to things. The second guy, second person had a cell phone, I think, and which that was not real common. This was back in '94, so it wasn't super common for cell phones. That was one of those big ones with the big antenna off the top. Had a cell phone and called an ambulance. And the third were Erin's next door neighbors. And we were still there were hundreds of houses between where we were and her house. I mean, it wasn't like they were the only houses out there. But happened to be her neighbors, maybe not next door, but on the street there. So they went and they get to go get Erin's parents. And I can just remember after all that, it was kind of interesting because they put us on backboards and neck braces, all this precautionary stuff. And I remember my mom squealing into the accident saying, "My baby," and doing all that. And really we were, aside from my elbow, I had ended up with about 30 stitches in my elbow and some things like that. But besides that, we were pretty much okay. And but that got me to thinking a little bit.